What is up? What is up? What is up, y'all? We are live once again here on a Saturday afternoon, approximately 1:32 here in Northern California. See, we got some early birds in here like Urban Southern Cookie. Bernie Miranda is here. Thank you for being here. J Row 49 is here. Faith Jarman was the first one in the room. She came in early, trying to check in and see what's going on. Y'all, today I brought a guest along. If y'all have been hanging out here for some time, you've seen him before. You ain't seen him in a while because he's hard to catch up with. He's one of those world travelers, y'all. When I call his phone, I gotta say, where you at? And he gonna say Dubai, Jamaica, Japan, somewhere on God's green earth. He liable to be anywhere, but he knows when he calls my phone, say, where you at? I'm sitting right here at my desk working. Mr. Predictable. But that's why we love him, because he's a world traveler. He's well informed, he's well educated, and he brings a certain knowledge to the table that's a little different than mine. We agree on a lot of things. But when we can find a moment of disagreement, it makes for lively conversation. And it's always interesting. And it's iron sharpening iron every time. We're glad to have him. I'm going to go in and bring him up for y'all. Mr. Kevin Hayden, y'all.
Woo! How y'all doing? Gospel Chops family.
I think they're doing good, man. They all in the chat. They getting lively. We got some more people coming in. Everybody is doing good on this Saturday. How things in your world?
Man, things in my world, your world. I'm hearing a little echo though. Do you hear that?
I don't.
That might be on my end though. Let me see. Let me see if I can fix that. Let's see. Ah, nope. Ah, mic check. 1, 2. Let me see. Oh, there it is. It's gone now.
Is it?
It's gone now.
Okay, cool. I didn't hear it at all.
Okay, good. Yeah, everything is cool in my world. Learning, growing, and just being the CEO of my world.
That's what's up.
You know.
And that's interesting that you say that, because it kind of taps into where we going today.
Hey.
How's everybody in the room? How's everybody in the chat? Everybody doing good? Bluebells is here from across the pond. Thank you for being here. Everybody doing all right? Urban Southern Cookie, you good? Bernie, you all right?
Hey, Cookie. Hey, Bernie.
Glad to see y'all in here. We're not going to be before you long, as the preachers say. But on this afternoon, I just wanted to tap into something that was on my mind, something that crossed my mind, something that I know that Kevin can relate to because he's active in the music community. He's in touch with a lot of musicians. And today we're talking about art. Bernie says she's wonderful. Karen Simmons is here. Good afternoon, Karen Simmons. Thank you for being here. Urban Southern Cookie says she's fantastic. I'm glad everyone is doing well. Y'all, I've been active in the art community, specifically in music, but in art in general for about 20 years now. It's been a long time. I'm old, y'all. But one thing that I've always found interesting is the mentality of the artist. That artist that focuses on their craft. And I've talked to some of these people, y'all. I've talked to some of their parents, talked to some of their mamas, some of these musicians' mamas that said when he was in diapers, I couldn't tear him away from an instrument. I couldn't get him away from the sound. When there were no drums around, he'd grab some spoons, some forks, and he would just beat on things, whatever he could find. And y'all know that mother's intuition, that mother's instinct. When you see something like that in your child, you know it's passion. Maybe passion from exposure, that you exposed them to certain things. They were able to experience certain things, but you didn't put that there. That is God-given passion. So as time goes on and that person develops, these artists develop, and it don't matter. You don't have to be a musician. You can be a painter. You can be any type of artist. You could be a dancer. But when you explore the mentality of artists, you find that it's not about money. They would do it if nobody paid them. Now, a lot of them want to get paid. They want to be compensated for their craft, as they should be. But if nobody paid them, you'd still find them somewhere doing that thing. Anybody in the chat got a hobby like that? Got an interest like that? Got a passion like that? Where if nobody paid you any attention, you'd
Ooh.
still be somewhere doing it because you love it like that. Y'all, when I was younger in the 90s, some of y'all ain't even that old, don't even go back that far. In the 90s, DJ Quick came out with a song, and it was a diss track. Y'all into diss tracks these days with these new rappers that's wet behind the ears. Kendrick Lamar and Drake, they dissing back and forth. Y'all like diss records all of a sudden. This was an old school gang bang diss record out of Compton. And DJ Quick said, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. It made everybody think, I think he got a point. Well, you out there in that hood life, you out there in that street life, it's all about the money, right? It's all about the come up, right? Well, today we doing it a little different because there are certain things that come upon us, our passion for artistry, where we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what? It don't make dollars, but it still makes sense. Why would it make sense if it don't make dollars? Y'all, I live in the most expensive state in the union. So it got to make dollars at some point. So how does it make sense if it don't make dollars? Because artistry is therapeutic. Artistry helps heal the mind. Artistry brings peace. I see my 50s down the road, y'all. I'm going to be approaching it soon. There's some certain things in my life that I want to explore. In my middle age, my son called it a middle age crisis. Because I told him the other day, he said, well, what you gonna do for Father's Day? What you got planned? I said, well, I'm starting to build my R. We in California, so you got to be careful. We on them folks' platforms, so you got to be careful. You got the R's and the X. I said, I'm going to get the parts and I'm going to start working on it. It's going to occupy my mind. It's going to give me something to focus on. Well, that's something that these artists do. It brings them focus. It brings them clarity to their lives. You see where I'm going with this, Mr. Hayden?
Oh, yeah.
The artistry, even if it don't make dollars, it can make sense because it gives them something in their life that is necessary for their foundation. Now, it's not always good because you can find yourself focusing on that, focusing on those sensibilities, right? It makes sense, sensibilities. But those sensibilities can be to the detriment of other things around you. So when I talk to folks and I try to give good counsel, I say, hey, bro, hey, sis, that's cool that you're into your art like that. That's cool that you're focused. That's cool that you're growing and becoming better and developing at that thing. But there becomes a point of demarcation where you can cross a line and things that used to make sense can be detrimental to other areas of your life. Kevin, I'm going to play this clip that I found on Instagram of an artist herself. And I want to get your comment on what she had to say in this moment.
I used to think that I would have really made it as an author when I figured out a way to do my art in such a way that it would also pay all of my bills. And I'm starting to think that destination isn't the mecca that I thought it was. In fact, sometimes when I work with authors, I work really hard to convince them not to put the pressure on their art to be the thing that makes them the money that pays their bills, that pays their mortgage, that puts food on the table, etc. Because when the pressure to provide sits on top of your art doesn't have the freedom to be what it needs to be. That doesn't mean that sometimes your art won't pay your bills. I've gone in and out of that being the case over the years. But maybe you just have a job that pays your bills, and maybe your art is just your art. Just a thought.
Mr. Hayden, what do you think about that? I have said similar things about 1,000,000 times to young artists. And I'd have to say, in my opinion, most of them disagree with what she said. What do you think about what she's talking about?
Well, let me first say that I have been there. I've been there countless times,
Mm,
to the point where I started not to enjoy the art because I was more so focused on the business end. Because there's a business end to everything. I think in life you have to have balance. Balance is key. Let me take my time with this one.
go ahead.
So I think as we get older, we start to want to have better life experiences and not so much, we don't want to capitalize so much on the experiences that art brings us, but we just want an overall better life experience. And I think that balance has to come into accountability. You have to find a way to be expressive and also be sustained. You cannot, it's very difficult to create from a place of need. Oh man, let me tell you, I went to a concert once. Who was it? J Moss. Went to see J Moss.
Okay.
And our good friend, the late great Tim Williams,
Yeah,
was on
Raw Biz.
Raw Biz was on bass. And I mean, Brent was on drums, and Floyd Thomas was on keyboards. And I mean, they were killing this show, killing this show. I talked to Tim afterwards. I say, Tim, man, you were killing. Tim has his face. I'm like, man, what's wrong though? You didn't look happy on stage. He said, man, I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do because we only got 2 more shows left on this tour. And I don't have anything else lined up.
Wow.
I got my cell phone bill. I got bills. I got rent to pay. I'm trying to figure out where this money's gonna come from.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, one of the greatest musicians the planet has ever seen is engaging. He's living the dream, but somehow, somewhere, the dream has turned into a nightmare.
Yeah.
He is not able to enjoy his art because he is worried about his basic needs. He does not have confidence in his current situation that his talent, his art will cover his basic needs.
Mm.
I said to myself, man, I don't love any art that much. I don't. Where I'm going to let my art put me in a situation where my basic needs won't be covered. So what I did was, in my balance, I focused heavily on the business end to where I knew that I was getting a fair share of the market for my services. What that did took away time from my elite status as a musician. I was never as good on drums as I could have been. I never pushed the limit, but it was because I knew that I needed balance. I always had a family, always had kids to feed. So I knew I couldn't be totally sold out to music, to the craft, to the actual art, because I got other people to think about. So I think, and as a church kid, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You come up early. We get really good at our instruments really
Yes.
early in church. Those are the times. Those are the years to just sell out to drums, to just sell out to the art. And where, you know, your basic needs are being covered by your parents, you got about a good 18 years. Well, I would say 15 years, because after 15, those parents start putting that pressure on you to start, you know, kind of getting a job and kind of working yourself into the workforce, or to be outlining college, some pathway to college or some pathway to a profession. I would say you got a good 15 years, some cases 18. Man, let me say this, some cases 22, 23. Now, I know some drummers 22, 23 years old, some musicians still at home playing drums in their mother's living room.
Ugh.
Some of them have had 23 years. And it doesn't take, I'm going to just put this out here, it doesn't actually take that long to get that good at drums.
That's right.
I will say this, some of these artists out here are overdoing it. They're overqualified. They have fallen in love, drunken. They are drunk off of the talent. Overqualified, like the market is only going to pay you so much more for you getting so much better. In fact, I don't even think it's based off that at all. I think what she said in the video clip was fair. Don't put that pressure on your talent, on your God-given talent. Don't put the pressure for it to pay your bills, because then you will end up diluting that talent. And if you're not okay with that, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't put that pressure on your talent to cover your basic needs. She said maybe get a job. I'm not telling people to get a job. Maybe start a business, do something.
I am.
You know, I'm not gonna say that, because some people say, well, what I do is a job. You know what? Here's the thing, though. You can be as poor as you want as an artist. It's when you start marrying and having kids is when you need to start rethinking what you're doing.
True.
I love to use Jesus as an example. Jesus was sold out to the Father and to the Father's business, but Jesus did not have a wife that wanted Starbucks every week and didn't have kids that needed the latest LeBrons. He didn't have all that. He was able to go to and fro the earth, preaching the gospel, you know, performing miracles. He was able to do that freely and could live as poor or rich as he wanted, because it was just him to consider.
Right.
So, like I said, once you start having a family, once you start bringing in those dynamics, it's time to rethink just being completely sold out to music or to any art form, and start thinking about those mouths you got to feed. There's that balance, because being an artist is a selfish, and I'm saying selfish not in a judgmental way, but it is about you.
Yes.
It's about what's in you, and you're projecting that onto the world. Okay. When it's just you, that's fine. I told musicians all the time, hey, when it's just you, go on that tour. Do as many tours as you want. It's just you. You don't have a wife and kids. You don't have all that to worry about. It's just you. You can always, pull out an air mattress and make a night over someone's house. It's fine. You can live that way. Live out of a suitcase. It's fine. It's just you. But once you start having kids, once you start having a family, which I have always had since my 20s, I've always had a family. So I don't know any other way to go about being an artist but to concentrate on that business side, because I knew it just wasn't about me. I had to get to that bread. I had to get to the business side. I had to make sense. I had to make those dollars, or it wasn't going to make sense. I never sold out completely to music. I could have been the best drummer in the world, I never did it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna sacrifice that because I got other people to think about, and that's only fair. So these artists that are complaining, you know what? Be so good, be so good that the world has to pay you.
Mm.
And the only way you get that good is if you don't have these other dynamics going on, wife and kids. Like I say, you know, starting off, it's not that it can't happen. It's just the likelihood of it happening is very low. It's very low when you have wife and kids and other, you know, mouths to feed. So that's what I would say to that. I hope that made sense to some people out there. Yes, Rick to Rob is one of the greatest musicians that we've, you know, had the pleasure of seeing. But if you ever paid attention to his video clips, you would see that there was a lot of times that he was not happy because he thought about it. Now, here's the other thing. Can I say this? Am I talking too much?
Go ahead, bro.
Okay, so here's the thing. Check this out. Rob is loved the bass. Absolutely loved music. He had other interests though too. He was interested in women. He was interested in cars. He loved cars.
Okay.
Okay. And he loved equipment. He wasn't like me. Like me, I could have one drum set and I'm cool. I know drummers out there that they have to have 15 drum kits and they got to have 30 snares. I was never that guy. I never had to have a whole bunch of equipment. I just looked at it as a tool. I didn't sell out to equipment. You know, like if I was a painter, I wouldn't have 150 paintbrushes. I'm not that guy. I would have had one or two brushes and got the job done. But with Rob is, he wanted to live a good life. In fact, he stated it to me. He said, man, Kev, because you stated earlier that you out there in Cali.
Yes, sir.
Robin said, Kev, I'm out here in Cali. He said, but if I could make Cali money and pay Milwaukee bills,
right,
I'd be living like a king.
Absolutely.
And I didn't have the wisdom to respond in this manner in which I'm going to now. Back then, you know, I just had empathy for him. But what I would say now is, it's not that way. If a musician came that way to me now, I would say, let's not deal in hypotheticals because that's not real. I think that's oh man, let me say this. A lot of musicians are traumatized by the unrealistic worlds they live in.
Yes.
Well, if I could have this, well, if I could have, but you don't. So let's deal in reality. Let's earn and spend in reality. And then we can work from there. Because a lot of musicians are driving, a lot of artists driving themselves mad because the world is not adjusting to their hopes and dreams. I wrote something in my journal today. I said, my life is easy. I said, easy like the wind beneath an eagle's wings. What does that mean? It means that when life is coming, man, I'm not this big, powerful eagle. I'm going to fight the wind. No, I'm going to soar because I'm going to use that wind that's coming at me and I'm going to use it to fly easy. Right? We don't want to fight the current. And I see a lot of artists fighting the current.
Yes.
And they're mad at the world because they think the world should be conforming to them. That is not how the world. Yeah, we see it all the time. That is not how the world. And you know what? They're like, hey, I'm giving you me. And here's the thing. Musicians, artists, they give so much to the world. Right? So on the surface, it makes sense that the world would say, okay, they give so much of themselves to us. Let's give them what they need and what they want. But the world is unforgiving. It really is. It just does not work that way. I mean, the ocean is beautiful. It's a beautiful place to be. But go far out there enough.
Right.
And play around and find out.
And find out.
It could be your worst nightmare. You find yourself out there. From a distance, it's beautiful. The mountains are beautiful. But go up there and be careless and run into a mountain lion.
Man, hold on, man. Let me put, who is this? Erica Chambers. You don't have to put yawn in the chat, Erica Chambers. Don't know who you are or where you came from, but take that and walk away, sis. Sorry to interrupt. But
yeah,
I mean, that was so unnecessary, bro. Hold
all
on,
right.
let me tap into it because High Tolerance is here. He says, RIP to Raw Biz. Says, cats go into the scene blind to reality. You can develop a love-hate relationship with your gift or passion. I agree with that, High Tolerance. In today's culture, it's easy to think you don't measure up. Comparison is the thief of joy. Yes, and thank you for your support. These are facts. And I like what you tapped into talking about the alternative reality, because that's kind of what artists do, right? They build an alternative reality. Their art becomes their escape. They tap into something else. It's their way of escaping from the pressures, the stress, all the things that they will go through in reality. Well, I can escape from all of that if I just sit on my instrument and play, or if I pull out a blank canvas and just begin to create. I can create a new reality on this canvas that has nothing to do with anyone else that might be in my life, with any of these bills, anything like what Tim was. I can imagine. And I'm listening to you describe it. I'm saying this man is on stage performing and he can't give it 100%, even as an artist, because his mind is over there.
Yes, and that's what he wanted. He wanted to be a professional musician on the biggest stages. A lot of times we say we want things and we don't necessarily know exactly what that's going to bring us.
Yes.
High Tolerance. That's said perfectly. And I like that profile picture too, man. Like you got a nice cup of coffee. I haven't even had a cup of coffee today, but that looks like a great cup of coffee too in that profile. Thank you for your feedback. It is crazy because, like I said, that is what he wanted, and he got what he wanted. He got exactly what he wanted. So that's why I say, a lot of times we got to be more specific and more intentional about life. Because a lot of artists will come out and say, it's about the art, it's about the art. But when you're not getting that paycheck that you think you should get, then that affects your art. Then it's really not about that. But for some reason, a lot of artists, they feel bad that they got to ask for money or they got to charge for their gift. And they don't want to come off like it's all about the money, but it is secretly deep down inside. Money matters to every artist. Always should. It should, and it does, but they don't lead with it. They lead with their talent. And that's why every artist needs representation, unless they can articulate themselves to get a fair market share. I'm telling you, the most dangerous thing as an artist is to let people know just how passionate you are. Because once they see just how passionate you are about what you do, oh man, the price goes down, down. Once they determine, oh man, this dude would do this.
He'd do it if he wasn't getting paid.
He'd do it if he, man, once they do that, once you display, it's almost like the artist cannot have any contact until it's showtime. That's when you can be free. That's when you can release and just be you. But you need that legal representation or somebody to handle the business side of things so that you don't have to worry about money if you're not able to articulate yourselves.
Yes.
But my goodness, man, this is I hope people are learning from this. I hope this is helping somebody.
I think High Tolerance is picking up what we're putting down. He says, I know many cold cats, not just cats, not just regular cats, not just stray cats, not house cats, cold cats
Yeah.
that went to LA and who were just another number. High Tolerance, I see it so much, and I've had so many discussions with people on that point exactly. Every time I'm in LA, and I hate going, but I just got back from LA last week. Every time I'm there, you look around, and LA in its current state is a mess. But every time I see a homeless woman on the street, might be dirty, clothes might be ragged, might just be down in a bad state, I look at that woman and say, I wonder if at some point she came to LA to be a model. I wonder if at some point she had champagne wishes and caviar dreams
Mm-hmm.
and came here expecting the world because at some point she was beautiful. And now look at her. The game got her. And it's not just her or the idea of a her. Happens to so many cold cats. Like you say, High Tolerance. I've seen it over and over again. But I tell you, at the same time, and I get what Kevin is saying, because he said there's a business into everything. And I get that, because I tell people often, it's not the art that pays you. It's the business of art that pays you. And if you can't make that distinction, you're going to be lost.
Well, isn't that the argument that we hear from a lot of artists? They're like, well, I'm so good, I should get paid this amount. They are basing their expectation on their level of talent. So they want to get paid depending on their level of talent. And anybody, hey, I'm not trying to throw anybody on the bus, but Ringo Starr, highest paid drummer in industry, right? Is he the best?
Not even close.
Not even close to being the best drummer in the industry.
Bro, I saw Ringo Starr on an award show many years ago, many moons. They put him, it might have been the Grammys. It was something. There was an award show, and they had the spotlight on Ringo as he was faking playing his drums on the stage. That sparkling kit. They had all the lights on him. But off to the side, in the dark, was Abe Laboriel Jr., the real drummer who was playing while Ringo was over there fumbling with his unmiked kit. The real drummer was over there. His presentation was just performative because he's Ringo, the highest paid, but nowhere near the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, Urban Southern Cookie.
She cooking.
Can I read this?
Absolutely.
Money matters also when you are an artist using your gifts. It's in the church. A lot of churches don't pay their drummers. I think you meant to say drummers, pianists, and any money, but they should. Okay. All right. So now here we go. I just saw a clip of Ty Tribbett talking about this very subject, talking about musicians that have been mistreated, treated like another number, and that their wellness is not being addressed, their mental health is not being addressed, and he says it's unfair. And here's my take on that. If a musician or singer is volunteering, I think that we can open the door in the discussion for wellness checks to make sure that they're being fed, that their soul's being fed. Once you pay someone, though, once money comes into the equation, then I think that the obligation to have, some type of wellness accountability, I think it diminishes at that point because there's a monetary contract in place. And in my opinion, it's just not good to mix business with personal issues, maybe. for lack of better terms, you know, once money is involved, I think that kind of shifts the whole entire situation, where it says, okay, I'm paying you to do a job. I have an expectation too, and that's to get my money's worth, you know, and then you have an expectation to carry out a deed or service, and it's then your responsibility to make sure that you are you know, you are able to get up in the morning, learn songs, and take care of business or whatever the case may be. But on a voluntary basis where there is no money involved, I could see more so a church extending more of a helping hand to musicians, and caring about them as people. You know, man,
It
I
complicates
think
things.
it does complicate things. I was saying, you know, if you own a home, if anyone out there owns a home, you've had contractors come to the house to do whatever, cut the grass, fix some plumbing in the house, maybe get a new roof. You know, it's not your job at that point to make sure that the people who are coming to your home to carry out a service, it's not your job to make sure that they are mentally stable. You don't have to do a wellness check. That's not your responsibility. Now, if they are volunteering those services, there's obviously some type of relationship there. And then I think it's okay to say, hey, my brother or my sister, are you all right? Is everything cool? Good? Is everything cool? Then it's okay, because you're not mixing, you know, there's more of a friendship there. It's more relationship based. But once money gets involved, I think it just complicates things, like you said. But, you know,
It does.
they say a lot of churches should pay musicians. It depends on what that church is looking for. If the church has a lot of breaks and they want this big elaborate production, yes, pay the musicians, because it's going to take up a significant amount of their time to make your dream come true. But if you have like one of those services that's just really low key and it's low maintenance, and you don't have a lot going on, you don't have 3 services, you're not so demanding in your time, and you have like a roster of musicians, there are churches out there with rosters of musicians where you might only play once a month, then I don't think money is the issue. Money
Right.
doesn't have to come into play there.
Right.
Yeah.
But money can, in complicating things, it can create, well, it does create an expectation. If a church gives you money, they're going to expect something from you. And if you serve a certain way and you expect that church to give you money, then you're going to put out a certain way because of that monetary expectation. It creates a two-way expectation from either party. Let me get to this comment. Bluebell says, I'm not an artist, but one of my favorite hobbies is making YouTube videos. What are pros and cons of, well, that's a long form answer. I mean, it seems like a simple question, but it's not, because being a YouTuber can be art in itself. We talking about art today. Yeah, people from all over the world express their love of art through YouTube videos. All they do is turn on a camera and capture whatever the art is, whether it be music. Some people make artistry out of baking cakes, and they will put videos on YouTube and get 1 million views because somebody thought that cake was artistic and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on what your angle is, what your approach to this platform is. I will tell you, it's a much more complicated platform today than it used to be. I've been on here since 2006. A lot has changed. And I'll just leave it at that. But I would encourage you to explore how you want to approach the platform, what you like to present on the platform, how you like to present it, and ask yourself, is this artistry? Is this my escape from reality? And if it is, then you definitely have to consider why you would want to take your escape and put it out in the forefront in front of the people. Are you really escaping if you take your escape and then make a mass presentation out of it? I think you got some questions to ask Bluebells from across the pond. We appreciate you, but I hope you take some time and explore that within yourself. Self-exploration. is going to give you the answer that you're looking for.
I agree. And then make sure you know what you want. What is the end result? Have an end goal. Because if your goal is just to share, then let that just be the goal. But if it's to get rich, that's going to determine how you go about YouTube.
Facts. There are some categories of videos on YouTube that don't pay. Next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There are some categories on YouTube that pay extremely well. But you can't get any traction if you're not educated in that field, in that category. For example, personal finance. One of the highest, if not the highest category on this platform. So you get on here and you see people make videos and say, well, what's the best bank I should open a savings account at? Or what's the best credit card for people with my credit score? Well, what's the best financing for a car? Should I buy a house right now? All those kinds of issues, highest paid category, if not the highest, close to the highest on this platform. But you better not jump out there with those sharks, as Kevin alluded to, in that deep ocean. You better not get out there if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You drown fast. Katie said, I agree. It does create higher expectations, but truthfully, we're supposed to do everything as if we're doing it for the Lord. I agree, Katie. But this is a complicated situation that I don't think anyone has come up with the right answer for it. You find church situations where they have come up with circumstances that are pleasing to both sides. But for every one of those that you find 100 churches where either the church is complaining about the musicians and their tardiness or their eagerness to get up and go out in the social hall when the pastor gets up to preach. They out in the parking lot taking a smoke break or whatever it is musicians do when the preacher get up. Or you find musicians complaining about the circumstances of the church. Does create an expectation, Katie. Says we should do our best at everything, money or not. I agree. Yes. I agree with that. Straight up. If you give your best, I think the church is going to see that. If the church gives its best, I think the musician is going to see that.
Ooh.
And game recognized game. At some point, you got to respect that who you're dealing with is giving you their best.
That's key right there. Because if they're not, the musicians will see that as well.
They'll see that.
Wow.
Urban Southern Cookie says, I stated money matters when using your gifts in church because I saw my mother's gift of playing piano used in a huge church we attended overlooked when they knew that there was a need in our home. Ooh.
Yeah.
See, at some point, man, it starts to sting. When you say something like that, it's interesting the way you worded that, Urban Southern Cookie, and I consider you a wordsmith, so I know you meant what you said. They knew it was a need in the home. And Kevin, you've talked about that before in some of our conversations, talking about the church knowing the financial need of musicians and kind of playing on that and taking advantage of that because they know the musician is hurting. And we've talked about it in an employment context because, like that Instagram video that I played earlier, we talked to some of these young brothers. They don't want to hear nothing about getting no job. Like, that's going to take me away from this fantasy world that I live in on my instrument. Be responsible. Get a job, a 9-to-5, and I understand, y'all, it's going to take you away from the artistry of it because you're going to spend all that time doing all that hard work. It's going to be time away from your craft. And you get off work after doing 8, 10, 12 hours, you're going to be tired. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be tired. You're not going to feel like it. You're just going to want to get some sleep because you got to get up and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
It pulls you away. But that's why I ask my kids about the R word. They know the R word. Responsibility. It's that word. It's gonna follow you the rest of your life. You can't escape it.
Yeah.
Even if you look, you mentioned you don't have kids, you don't have a wife. Even if you don't, you're still gonna have some responsibilities in life
Yeah.
that may take you away from your craft. And I come across so many people who want to live in that bubble that the craft creates, and they don't want to step out of it. It's an interesting place that I look at from afar and I try to study and I try to understand. But I tell you, sir, I never want to be in that mental bubble.
No, and I gotta, oh man, when I think back, and first let me say to Urban Cookie, I'm sorry that even happened to your mom. That that happens so much in the church just as a whole. You see even just general laborers in the church that when they have a need, it's not being met by the church. Like in all capacities, the church can turn on you and say, nah, you can't withdraw. I know you poured in, talent wise, tithing, but you're not able to withdraw when you need something. That happens a lot, and I'm sorry for that. But what I was saying is that, man, this is a very tough thing, because musicians, they have these expectations, and I'm like this: know what comes with this life, deal with it, don't complain. That's probably my biggest gripe with musicians, is the complaining. Because when did that ever change anything?
Right.
You either accept these cards or get a job. Because complaining does nothing for you. And they're like, well, there aren't enough gigs and people are undercutting and people, this and that. And these people aren't even that good. And they're taking up all our gigs, and or the back in the day, I wouldn't even say back in the day, even currently still, there are OG musicians who say, oh, well, these internet musicians aren't real musicians. Hey, man, the world is changing. Don't get mad because they're using that wind, like I talked about earlier. They're being eagles and using that wind, while you're still trying to fight the wind by being old school. Well, we got our gigs the hard way. Back in my day, we had to do this, we had to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're living in the past, so you're torturing yourself. That's where all your pain is coming from, is because you're stuck in the past. You're stuck where the industry used to be. The industry has moved, and now you're trying to demonize people who are moving with the industry.
Right.
Afraid of change, dismissive of change, and that creates trauma in their lives, and it creates pain. It creates a lot of pain. They end up losing big, and that is the main reason why I stopped following a lot of musicians, because the complaining that would come with their talent. Like, I love the talent, I don't appreciate the complaining that comes with it. Like, I think about, we're all old enough to talk about Street Fighter here. Street Fighter 2. Y'all know Ken and it's pronounced Ryu, but we called him Ryu. Ryu. When you look at the story of these Street Fighter characters, man, they went to and from the earth just fighting. They just wanted to be the best fighters in the world. They cared nothing about being poor. If you look, Ryu had a bag. He had a stick with a bag. He didn't have anything.
Everything he owned was in that sack.
Everything he owned was in the sack. He was like, man, I'm just walking, waiting for a fight. I just want to be the best in the world. And that was his reward. If you win the game with him, that's his reward. Being the best in the world. He didn't want to be the richest guy, but also he didn't have a family and kids either that he had abandoned. And if you, because I know a lot of artists watch anime. If you look at Dragon Ball Z, that is the biggest gripe with the main characters Goku and what's that other guy, Vegeta. Their wives nag at them for wanting to fight all the time. Like all you care about is fighting.
Is that the storyline?
That's the storyline. They get like, take your kids to the park. That's what they tell them. Take your kids to the store. They're like, I don't care. Training is the only thing that matters. Why did you have a family then? Why did you have a family? So musicians go through the same thing. Artists go through the same thing. They prioritize the art.
Yes.
And then they also want the cars and they want the houses. Why?
So you can't have your cake and eat it too.
You know,
it don't work that way.
There's this small percentage of musicians that it worked out for. But here's the other thing that goes with that. The musicians that were able to get the houses and the cars, guess what? They sacrificed as well. They didn't play to their full potential.
Fact.
You hear it all the time. Play the record. Play it like the record. Play it like when has that been fun for any musician to play anything like the record?
Right. They want to put their own creativity into it.
They want to be
It's
creative.
art.
Yes, it's a prison. So you went to prison for this house and this car because now you're playing it like the record. Well, what fun is that? What? That's not creative. That's not discipline. They say, you gotta have discipline. Just play the record. You're a robot now. You're a slave. You're not you on these drums. You're not you anymore.
Right.
So you have sacrificed that. There's always going to be some type of sacrifice. So what are you willing to sacrifice? The musicians that are out there that want to play 1,000,000 notes, you're not going to make $1 million. The less notes you play, the more money you make. Where you want to be, you got to find, you got to find what you want. You want to play, you want to be the best in the world. Well, then be that, but know what comes with that. Not a lot of calls. You don't get a lot of calls.
Look, Bernie says her husband got a room look like your background right now. It looked like the room you're sitting in. She said he got 4 bass guitars, 2 electric guitars, some drums. He got everything off in there and he just get lost. That's his escape.
Yep.
That's his oasis.
Here's the thing. I got all this back here. I touch it every now and then because it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
But I respect it for what it is. I don't depend on it to feed my family because then I got to go at it a certain way.
Yes.
And I'm not able to be free on my instrument. I love being free on my instrument to play when I want to play, what I want to play. And that's what I gained. That's what I wanted from music. And my needs and my wants for music changed over the years. Before it was, man, I wanted to be the best drummer in the world. And then I became the best drummer in the world and it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't fulfilling. I was like, oh, I can play this and I can play that. But then in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I want to live a certain way.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, well, I want some higher paying gigs. Well, what is that? What does that look like? Well, that looks like less time on your instrument and more time in those emails and learning how to communicate, becoming a master communicator.
The business side.
The business side, learning how to speak, learning how to dress, learning how to talk, and learn how to stick and move in these meetings. That's what that looks like. So now I'm like, oh man, I'm not as good as I want to be now on drums, but I am pulling up to this gig better than everybody else.
Right.
My car is better. My house is better, but there's always some give and take. And you got to find that balance. It goes back to balance. And that's where I am with it. You got to find a balance. You got to find out. You got to be real with yourself first. You got to look in that mirror and say, hey, man, what is it that you truly want? Forget what everybody else wants. What is it that you want? Because once you find out what you want out of music, then no one can make you depressed, or no dollar amount that you're not expected to get can throw you off your chi. It can't ruin you at that point, because now you know who you are, what you want out of this whole thing. So here's the other thing. A lot of artists will not set goals. The reason why they don't set goals It's because they don't want to say they failed at something. If you notice, a lot of artists will say, if I get this gig, cool. If I don't, hey, I wasn't trying anyway. They don't want to be clear. So then when God gives them an unclear life, now you're mad? Now you're complaining? Well, I say, what you mad at? They say, well, I'm not getting this. Well, what are you supposed to get? Well, I'm not getting the record sales I want. Well, how many record sales were you supposed to get? A lot. How much is a lot? I don't know, just a lot. Oh, now I get it. You don't know what you're supposed to get. So how can you be mad at something you're not getting when you don't even know what that something is? You don't even have a clear idea. How can you gauge that you're failing when you don't have a target? So I see a lot of artists are stuck. They're like, hey, man, I ain't trying to set no goals because I don't want to fail. And you see everybody else failing. You're like, man, I don't want that to be me. So I'm going to act like I don't really care. And if I make it, I make it. If I don't, then I don't. But it's not that. It comes with a bunch of complaining if you don't make it. But what is making it? You never define it. Artists never define making it. They never define it. What does that mean? What is that? So they're forever angry. It doesn't matter what gig they get. It doesn't matter how much money they make. They're forever frustrated because they have never defined what making it is. It's completely wild.
Because to come up with that requires some introspection, some important conversation with the man in the mirror. And some of them simply don't want to have that conversation because then they would have to realize that all that time on the instrument in Bernie's husband's room, we should all go to Bernie's house and throw a shed in her husband's room. I think we have fun in there.
Right.
But it's not going to pay us out here. We have to determine. And we can only determine it for ourselves. I think Katie is tapping into something here.
Hey, I like that one.
What's that?
I like that comment, Katie.
Yes.
Oh, I like this one, but I like this other one she made. Let's read this one first.
Another good question to ask yourself, all of us, is what I want now. What do God want for me?
Mm-hmm.
We ask ourselves, well, okay, what do I want? Now, what does God want? And do those things align or are they missing? Am I in alignment with God's will for my life? Or is what I'm wanting for myself totally out of alignment with God's will? Well, that could be the source of a whole lot of problems that a lot of these people face. Ask God for direction through the Holy Spirit because God says he has an acceptable, good, and perfect will. Thank you for that, Katie.
They ain't gonna do it though. Let me tell you, most of them aren't gonna do it. They won't do it because they are afraid that God's will not line up with what they want. And that is why a lot of artists stay in their craft too long. They're like, I ain't gonna ask God what his will is because it'll take me, it may be that I'm supposed to be doing something totally different in life.
They're afraid God gonna say, get a job.
They afraid God gonna say anything but play that instrument all day.
Yeah.
And so they don't ask. They're fearful of God's will. So, oh my goodness, that is so crazy. But I agree with that, Katie. Yes, people should just take time, be still, stop doing. Just stop and just say, God, give me direction. What am I supposed to be doing? What should I do right now? I'm going to tell you something. I just saw a clip of Celine Dion. Oh, man. So her voice is going out. She's got some kind of disease. Really?
Yeah, she's been struggling with her health.
Yeah. Check this out.
I didn't know her voice was going.
Oh, it's going. She is cracking and everything. And she was in tears. She's like, I can't do this anymore. And people in the comments like, oh, she's rich. She's got all this money. She shouldn't even care. Come on. Let me tell you all something. She based her whole identity on her talent.
Hold on one second. Urban Southern Cookie, we praying for you, sis. Hope you feel better. Thank you for being here and supporting.
Yes. Urban Southern Cookie, praying for you. Hope you get better.
Go ahead, bro.
Okay. Yeah, so she based, Celine Dion based her whole identity on her talent. That's all she's ever done. She's only gonna identify with that. And the moment she can't do it, there's no dollar amount that could be in her bank account that would make her feel better about herself now. Not at
True.
this point, right? So it's those times when you say, okay, were you supposed to leave singing alone a long time ago?
Wow.
And you got to ask that question. Were you not asking God? Because God don't operate like that. Here's the thing. Jordan retired with a lot left in the tank. Jordan moved on from basketball, though. He knew, man, God's saying move on. There's something else for you. I know it don't make sense on the surface. He had a lot left in the tank when he retired from the Bulls. The first and the second time. But that's the thing. That's what happens when we don't ask God for direction. We end up assuming the identity of our talents.
Yes.
And then once our talent dissipates, we don't know who we are anymore.
Right.
Kobe Bryant said, and I love this. Kobe said, after he retired, he said, if y'all only know me, he said, if the world only remembers me from basketball, I have failed at life. He said, this will not go down as my greatest achievement. Meaning he just was, it did go down as his greatest achievement, but he was on path to find the next thing. Like he was trying to identify himself like, hold on, man, this ain't just me. I'm not just limited to what I can do with this basketball. There's a lot more to me. This is not just my sole identity. I am going to fight and do what, do God's will. He's making a way for himself. So I would say that is the danger of not asking God for direction. What'll happen is if you lean too heavy on your talent,
Yes.
and you assume your identity through that talent.
Yes.
Once that talent dissipates, because you will get older, you will not get as many calls as you used to get, then you're in trouble. Now you don't know who you are. Now you don't know what you're supposed to do when, this artist ain't calling no more and they're calling the young cats. Now you just gonna result to hating. Well, they doing too much and I ain't no internet drummer and they taking our gigs, they taking less money. That's why I ain't getting no calls. Now it's all this hate. Now you can't even support the up and coming because you stayed in this seat so long that the industry had to move you out of the way. Now that ain't God. When the industry got to move you, no, man, you're not listening at that point. You're not listening.
Yeah.
And I like what Katie said. I'm going back to that. I love it. Like, ask God for direction. Do not be afraid that God gonna take you off that instrument. Because if you're more afraid of being off that instrument than you are hearing from God, you have idolized that instrument now.
Facts. That's a good point.
That instrument has now become your God.
Yes.
And that is super dangerous. Wow.
It is your God. It is your identity.
Oh, my goodness.
And if something happens that disconnects you from it, like you said, you don't know who you are without it. That's a scary place to be.
Wow.
I see what Bernie said. She started selling baby clothes with demonic symbols. And then started getting sick. Boy, you can invite bad things upon yourself. By that misalignment that I spoke about, if your will is not in alignment with God's will, you can invite exactly what Bernie is talking about here. I didn't know that. That's good information, Bernie.
Yes, Bernie, thank you for sharing that. I did not know that either. And wow.
That's incredible.
That's just how the devil lies. Just spewing all kind of lies, and it's sad that people believe those lies. And it takes you down a dark path and leaves you cold.
Katie says, anytime we put our identity in anything other than Christ Jesus alone, we going the wrong way.
Yes.
just compared to people identifying as different genders, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Facts on facts on facts, Katie.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how many artists we have in the chat today. I appreciate each and every one of y'all who have come and participated in the chat. We rocked out for a good hour on your Saturday. Just wanted to come on here, touch bases with you, touch in the spirit, be as one on your Saturday afternoon, and drop some information in your life that might be helpful and edifying to you all. I hope somebody appreciated what we did today. We got Salapter in the building. Tara Chanel is here. Bernie here. Katie here. We know Urban Southern Cookie was here. High Tolerance.
High Tolerance, what's up?
High Tolerance sound like a musician. Sound like he get it on another level.
Yeah, he definitely understands the language.
He understands. You can just tell the conversation be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate each and every one of y'all for being here. We had some others that were Faith Jarman was the first one in the room.
Oh yeah.
Bluebells was here. High Tolerance is today's sponsor of the stream. There's another name I'm looking for, and I'm gonna get to it in a second. Thank you, Katie.
Oh, thank you, Katie.
Appreciate you so much. James Antoine was in the building. I'm still looking. Give me a second. We're going to get there, y'all. There we go. J-Row 49, a new member of the channel, a supporting monthly member of the channel. J-Row 49, thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Katie, we appreciate you and your entire family for your support, continued support. I appreciate y'all rocking out with us. I hope somebody was able to get something from this conversation today. You don't have to be a musician to understand. You don't have to be a musician to be picking up what we putting down, because at the end of the day, it does come back to a spiritual relationship. Because God gave you whatever your talent is. Mm-hmm. Bible says that gifts come without repentance. Well, whatever that talent is, I don't believe God would give it to you in order for it to lead you astray. Mm-hmm. That ain't how God works. So it's up to you, you talented person, whether you are a dancer. Urban Southern Cookie said earlier, she liked to dance. She was a dancer. I don't care if you're an artist, a singer, a musician, whatever your craft might be, a chef. Maybe you sew, maybe you stitch and put clothes together in the fabric. What do they call it? What do they call those people? Designers, yes. Clothing designers. I got lost there. I had a old brain fart. But whatever your talent is, whatever your craft is, whatever your focus is, if God gave it to you, seamstress, Katie says. Thank you,
seamstress. I like that.
Thank you. But if God gave you that gift, it wasn't a gift to distract you from him. So in some way, and I think that we can call that the moral of the story today, in some way, you got to figure out how to lean into your craft to bring you closer to God, because he gave you the gift. So what would you look like taking your gift and running away and not being dependent on the giver of the gift? Kev, you got something to say? We closing out today.
Hey, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Gerald Forrest, my good friend. I wrote that in my journal too the other day.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, don't put me
my good friend, my brother. I put you in my journal, man. That's funny. That was about 2 days ago. I just wrote that, just a statement. But thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. You know how I feel about the Gospel Chops fam. I love you all out there. I really appreciate you. Thank you for always being so warm, welcoming to this platform. I really appreciate being able to share with you all the little knowledge, the little wisdom that I have. I just like to serve, and serve in a great capacity. And I just thank you all. Thank you all for having
Anytime, sir. You know,
me.
it's iron sharpens iron whenever we get together and cut up on the phone. We always have great conversations about so many varied topics. And y'all let us
Yeah.
know what you would like us to talk about on this platform. If you got any specific topics that you'd like us to address, because I'm telling you, sometimes we go at it for hours and it's always a good time.
Absolutely.
Travel with Caribbean is here, says was here for a short while, but I appreciate the message. Stay blessed. Thank you for being here, sis. That's a new name I haven't seen in the chat before. Travel with Caribbean. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting, and please come back.
Yes, thank you.
High Tolerance representing again says, I had a convo with a bro. Would you open the church up for a secular gig rehearsal? Oh,
wait.
oh.
Oh,
That
man.
sound like a can of worms. High Tolerance.
That sounds like a story. I'm gonna save that story for another live. But I got a story behind that one.
Oh. Oh. High Tolerance. With the last second bomb before the buzzer.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Would you open the church up for a secular gig rehearsal? Whoa.
I've seen it done. And I've done it.
Wow.
I've done it.
I've seen the church open for a shed, but that's not, I didn't consider that secular. I considered that, look, we're talking about art. I considered it artistic expression, but I didn't think it was secular, even hosting it in a church setting. I don't think so. These are church cats who got their gift from church and have the utmost respect for church. I don't think it was anything like something I would call secular.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Here go High Tolerance. He continuing to drop them on us.
I had to have that heart to heart with him.
I bet. I bet. I hope you pull him to the side and didn't do it publicly. Right. Go to your brother in secret. Take him into the prayer closet and give him a whooping.
Oh, look what Katie said. Does YouTube give y'all a time limit, or could y'all kick your shoes off and visit a while? Just curious.
You know what, Katie? I think we could be on here for as long as we could be on. As long as my camera battery lasts. I don't think YouTube would kick us off. I haven't seen anything like that come up. I've seen, matter of fact, I was looking at the case down in Fulton County, Georgia, the Young Thug case the other day with Lil Woody on the stand. If y'all ain't seen Lil Woody, please go on YouTube search for Lil Woody testimony. It will laugh you until your ribs hurt.
Now I gotta do some research. I haven't seen that.
Oh my goodness!
Can we talk about it tomorrow? Can I look at it and then we talk about it?
Absolutely. We can play some clips so y'all can see Lil Woody cut up on the stand. But my point was, I follow a YouTuber called The Lead Attorney who is tracking that case. He's an experienced attorney and he's just giving kind of a play-by-play on that case. And I think he was on for 9 hours on his live stream the other day, Katie. So I don't think YouTube gives you a time limit at all.
I love how you always, well, not always, but you do some time to time reference the lead attorney. But y'all forget the great Gerald Forrest. He went to law school too. Now he done his thing. Now
the worst 3 years of my life.
Like the man is credentialed. He's easy. Yeah. You that guy. Let me tell it, because you don't say it enough. They forget. You that guy. Yes.
Yeah, man. We did that.
Yeah.
God blessed us through that time of our life. It was a great learning experience. And I'm so thankful for it because, y'all, they don't teach you how to practice law in law school. They don't teach you how to practice. Mm-hmm. But the process is so interesting that it changes the way you think. And trust me, you're going to come out of that process looking at things differently than you ever have before, looking at things differently than most people. That's why people think lawyers are weird. Some of them are weird. I got to give it to you. It's not like what you see on TV. But the truth of the matter is they just see the world differently and they think about things differently because that's what law school trains you to do. Doesn't train you to practice.
Can I also say they think about results?
True.
So for you all that have maybe a negative experience with a lawyer, you call them heartless, but sometimes they're asking you heartless questions because they know they're going to be standing before a heartless judge.
Facts.
And they got to get the information that's going to appease to that judge and to that courtroom. They're very results driven and they keep the emotions out of it for the most part. And that's why they can seem like jerks. They're very critical and analytical and discovery. So, you guys ease up on the lawyers. They just try to do a good job, but
yeah, and like anything else, there's some good ones and bad ones out there. They're not all good.
No, they're not. But wouldn't you say that's what isolates you from a lot of people is your critical thinking?
Definitely. When you begin to see things differently and think about things differently, it kind of separates you from people who don't think that way. It's just a natural separation. It doesn't mean that you're more intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that you walk down the street and you see a crack in the sidewalk. Somebody else might just walk over it and be like, I'm going about my day. But you look at it and you say, liability. Somebody's going to trip and fall. You just see things different.
Yes.
Things that other people take for granted, you look at them a different way.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, man, we can catch up on that YSL case and maybe get on and talk about that a little bit tomorrow. I think it's fun. I've been following it for some time, and it just shows the level of corruption going on down there in Fulton County in Georgia. I appreciate everybody for being here and all the sponsors today. High Tolerance and Travel with Caribbean and Katie. Thank you all for being here and contributing and supporting and hanging out with us during this time.
Yes.
Y'all, he brought up the law. I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to say nothing about it, but y'all always remember and never forget. A good lawyer knows the law, and a great lawyer knows the judge. See y'all next time.